Hello, good afternoon. It's very nice. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm very humbled to be amongst you today. I've been a supporter for a number of years, but my notoriety has increased lately, and therefore more people know of my support. But I see already friends amongst you, and it's an honor to be here. And I hope I can be of assistance. I want to read to you two pieces today. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
The first piece is about a man called Roger Baldwin. Roger Baldwin was a social worker specializing in the probation service. He joined the American Union Against Militarism, founded 1915, and by 1918 headed its National Civil Liberties Bureau and its Bureau of Conscientious Objectors. On the 30th of October 1918, he appeared before the federal court in New York, charged with violation of the Selective Service Act implementing conscription. His response to the judge included the following words: "I am before you as a deliberate violator of the Draft Act. When ordered to take a physical examination, I declined to do so, and instead presented myself to the U.S. Attorney for prosecution. The compelling reason for my refusing to comply with the Act is my uncompromising opposition to the principle of conscription of life by the state, in time of war or peace. I not only refuse to obey the present conscription law, but I would in future refuse to obey any similar statute which attempts to direct my choice of service and ideals. I regard the principle of conscription of life as a flat contradiction of all our cherished ideals of individual freedom. I am the more opposed to the present act because it is for the purpose of conducting war. I am opposed to this and all other wars. I do not believe in the use of physical force as a method of achieving any end, however good. My opposition is not only to direct military service, but to any service, whatever designed to prosecute the war. Holding such profound convictions, I determined not even to register, but to present myself for prosecution. It may be argued that the War Department's liberal provision for agricultural service for conscientious objectors will be open to me, that there can be no moral objection to farming, even in time of war. I answer, I can make no moral distinction between the various services which assist in prosecuting the war, whether rendered in the trenches or raising farm products under the lash of the Draft Act. All serve the same end: war. I ask the court no favor. I could do no other than what I have done. I have no bitterness or hate in my heart for any man. Whatever the penalty, I shall endure it, firm in the faith that whatever befalls me, the principles in which I believe will bring forth out of this misery and chaos a world of brotherhood, harmony, and freedom for each to live the truth as he sees it. It may be that in the history of things, he who seems to be wrong today may be right tomorrow. But with those possible idealistic and academic speculations, a court has nothing to do. It would obviously be most unwise to permit you to go into the army now and there become a disturbing element. The maximum penalty is 1 year in the penitentiary. You have already spent 20 days in prison. You are sentenced to the penitentiary for the 11 months and 10 days. After serving his year, Roger Baldwin went on to found the American Civil Liberties Union, of which he remained director until 1950. A remarkable man. Perhaps a moment of silence for him and for all those who've taken that stance is worthwhile. In June 1917, almost a year to the day of his declaration, unfortunately, a few months ago, a wonderful young playwright, Juliet Rose, sent me a play that she's has written about Siegfried Sassoon, and I asked her to condense the play or to take a scene from the play that we could read for you today. So I'd like to invite a wonderful young actor, my friend Patrick, who's going to read Sassoon for us, Dr. Rivers, to roam about, and the imprisonment of Sassoon in our very minimalist stage set is clearly expressed. So perhaps before we begin, let's have a thought for that incredible man, Siegfried Sassoon, and his fellows. And I suppose a large thought for what in my mind remains the greatest betrayal of a younger generation of men and women by an older generation during the First World War that I can bring to mind in the history of mankind. One can't help imagining, or one finds it hard to imagine, any adult who would have considered any one of those battles in the First World War and not thought, let's just get together and talk and figure this out. This is a ridiculous waste of life. I hope their souls and spirits can hear us today, remembering them and carrying on their good fight for peace. When I'm alone, the words tripped off his tongue as though to be alone were nothing strange. When I was young, he said, when I was young, I thought of age and loneliness and change. I thought how strange we grow when we're alone, how unlike the selves that meet and talk and blow the candles out and say goodnight. Alone, the word is life endured and known. It is the stillness where our spirits walk and all but inmost faith is overthrown. The words I've just read are by the poet Siegfried Sassoon. In his long life, Sassoon was born in 1886 and died age 80 in 1967. He was sometimes lonely, sometimes angry, and often deeply compassionate and kind. Sassoon fought, as you will know, in France in the First World War. Upon his return to England in 1917, almost 100 years ago to this day, he made an anti-war declaration, refusing to fight anymore. His passionate stand against the war shows his own inmost faith. He believed in himself, and I think, like many of us gathered here today, rejected the accepted wisdom that wars must be fought, and wanted instead to find a peaceful way forward, which respected and did not sacrifice young lives. The declaration was published in the Times and read out in the House of Commons. The government, embarrassed by Sassoon's declaration, found it convenient to declare Sassoon shell-shocked and sent him to Craig-Lockhart War Hospital near Edinburgh. Here he came under the care of the psychologist Dr. William Rivers. Dr. Rivers was one of the founding fathers of the newly emerging fields of neurology, anthropology, and psychotherapy, and with his particular passion being expeditions to the Pacific Islands. He became a beloved friend and mentor to Sassoon, and his early death in 1922 left Sassoon bereft. Now Patrick and I would like to read a piece about Sassoon and Dr. Rivers written by Juliet Rose. The scene takes place in Dr. Rivers' room in Craig Lockhart, and Dr. Rivers is meeting with Sassoon for the first time. William Rivers, I'm very pleased to meet you, Lieutenant Sassoon.
Please, not Lieutenant, not anymore.
Well, Mr. Sassoon then. I was curious about something. What does the name Sassoon mean?
Joy, in Hebrew. Not that I'm feeling especially joyful this morning, cast into a loony bin in the barren Scottish wilderness.
Well, this is not a loony bin, Mr. Sassoon, and you are free to explore the barren Scottish wilderness. Edinburgh is 5 minutes away by taxi.
Forgive me. The name comes from a place in Baghdad called Sassoon. My father's side of the family were merchant princes there in the 18th century. And you can call me Siegfried, you know. Might as well if we're going to be spending so much time together.
Siegfried.
You saw it in the Times, I take it?
Your declaration, I have it. I'm making this statement as an act of willful defiance of military authority because I believe that the war is being deliberately prolonged by those who have the power to end it. I have seen
and endured the sufferings of the troops, and I can no longer be a party to prolonging these sufferings for ends which I believe to be evil and unjust.
What did you see?
I saw a friend of mine killed, Tommy. I cared about him very much. Second Lieutenant David Cuthbert Thomas of the 3rd Battalion of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. And here's the two of us doing officer training together in Cambridge, August 1915. God, I look so ridiculous in that photo, awkward. I tie myself in knots sometimes. But you see, the light is catching in his hair,
and he's smiling.
So I'm glad of that.
How old was he?
20. And now he's dead. Shot through the throat with a bullet. He had the most gentle voice, but he can't talk anymore.
But you can.
I can. Let me tell you about bullets. Bullets are deft. They flick your life out with a quick smack. Shells rend and bury. They vibrate and scatter, hurling fragments and lumps and jagged splinters at you. They lift off your legs and leave you huddled and bleeding and torn and scorched with a blast straight from the pit. There are pools of still water in the craters. Oh, they reflect the stars like any lovely water, but nothing green grows near them. Only snags and twists of hot metal. You might find a skull if you look hard enough, if you keep your eyes out. They don't have eyes, Dr. Rivers. The skulls I've seen, they're just matted with what was once hair. Eyes once looked from those terrible holes. They held a life with its passions. They appealed for justice. They were lit with triumph. They were beautiful with pity. Tommy had the kindest grey eyes. I would have given my life to protect him. All I wanted was to look after the men in C Company, my men as I began to think of them. And one is very dear to me. Jowett. Well, he's not a man really, he's a boy. He's 19. I wrote a poem about Jowett. I was watching him sleep.
Would you let me read it? I mean, could I read it?
Yes.
Why do you lie with your legs ungainly huddled, and one arm bent across your sullen, cold, exhausted face? It hurts my heart to watch you, deep shadowed from the candle's guttering gold, and you wonder why I shake you by the shoulder. Drowsy, you mumble and sigh and turn your head. You are too young to fall asleep forever. and when you sleep, you remind me of the dead. You were watching your friend Siegfried netted and tangled in sleep, and you said earlier you tie yourself in knots. Your critics would have it that you are doing just that with your declaration, twisting yourself into an emotional crisis of your own devising. What would you say to that?
At night, I used to creep about in front of the wire, right up close to the Germans. I heard strange, terrible laughter in the dark sometimes. I was frightened to find it was my own. Mad Jack, my men called me. I knew I ought to be careful of myself, but something drove me on to look for trouble. They said I was trying to get myself killed.
Were you?
I don't know.
Sounds to me as if you were giving it a damn good try. Why would you care so little for yourself?
I've never been able to feel what men are supposed to feel. And because society hates my kind of love, I've taken that hatred inside me and turned it against myself. I think that's why I couldn't wait to join up, because I half wanted to get myself killed, half thought I deserved to die. And then I went out there and found beauty in the faces of the men. It became a circle of anger and guilt, from which the only escape was death.
Mad Jack, you say you half wanted to get yourself killed, half deserved to die. What about the other half? Was there a more positive side?
Yes. The feelings I had for my men, especially my friend Tommy, I wanted to live for them, to protect them. And then I didn't want to get myself killed because there was so much to say. Love and beauty and death and sadness. And I wanted to help others who were struggling like me. I've always wanted to write a book to help creatures of my temperament, a book that the world would recognize and learn to understand.
Our.
What?
Our temperament, yours and mine. And we're not creatures, Siegfried, we're men. You should write that book, you know. It would do much good and be part of the recognizing and understanding which I believe in time will come. Not in my lifetime, but in yours. I would want that for you. I'd not have you wish away your desires. John Donne writes somewhere of that subtle knot that makes us man. He means that the body is intertwined with the soul, and that the physical senses have beauty and worth, no less than the spiritual. But for now, Siegfried, you must be careful. You need to protect yourself, because there are those who will use your private feelings against you to undermine your protest against the war.
I care more to protect my men than to protect myself. I think too of the German boys across no man's land. They are brave and frightened and cold and tired too, no different than my boys. And German mothers long to hold their sons safe again, just as English mothers do. So I'll write true about what I have been witness to out there, no matter how ugly and bitter my words. No truth is unfitting.
That is also my belief, Siegfried.
You understand me? Every day I was watching men who I cared about, and yes, I will say it now, loved, suffering and dying without purpose and without hope, and I will not let their suffering be lost in the abyss. Men from Welsh farms and northern cities, from factories and shops, or straight from school like Tommy, men whose integrity, patience and tenderness have awakened my slow heart from a long sleep.
You found your voice.
Yes, from my men. The killed and wounded men I could not protect, and the men still suffering in the slaughterhouse we call France.
For the men whose voices are being silenced.
I am finding my voice.
One of the beautiful ideas is that things do change, and the issue of homosexuality, which was a very large issue for Siegfried Sassoon in his day, has changed. We've made great progress as society on that front, and it gives us hope about our own issue today, that we find peaceful ways of dealing with conflict, of resolving conflict. As Andrew Carnegie, the great peace protester, often said, there was a day not that far away in the past where we settled things with duels, didn't we? Where men would go out into a early morning location and fight something out with pistols. Well, we've got rid of that, haven't we, in our society? It doesn't happen anymore, not legally, and so change is possible, likely. So thank you so much for having me here today. I see many of you in the audience who have inspired me since I've been a young man in this country, and it's an honor to be amongst you and to recall these heroes of the past. Thank you very much.